All right. So my name is Adam Gree, and I'm our teacher for the junior high and high school courses, both in history and in literature. And this will just be a chance for me to share a few important details from my life and to answer any questions that you have about the course. And of course, I see some students here already, and I'm excited to get to know you this year. So please ask away if you have any questions. I'll speak probably for 5-10 minutes and give you an overview of my educational background and teaching experience, and then what the courses we offer include and what to expect. And of course, you'll be hearing more about that on the first day of class as well. And then at the end, I'll be here to answer questions. So without further ado, I'll go ahead and get started. So in terms of my educational background, I went to public school until third grade, and then I was homeschooled for about 5 years. And it was at that time that I became the guinea pig for the classical historian, because I'm the oldest of my parents' 7 kids. So when my dad wrote the curriculum about 20 years ago, I was the one that he got to test all of his educational theories out on. And I enjoyed it a lot. I like debate, and I like being able to research things on my own and come to my own conclusions. And so it was a pretty natural fit. And in the course of debating big ideas and events, I developed an interest in philosophy. So I studied philosophy in college at UCSB. And while at UCSB, I spent a semester abroad studying in Thailand. And that's where I met my wife, which is very funny. She is from Los Angeles. She's an American. She was also studying at UCSB, but it's a very big university, and we met abroad. And we married and we moved to Prague in Czech Republic. So right now I'm actually in a village outside of Prague, and our family has grown somewhat. We now have two small kids. Our son is about 6 months old, and our daughter is a bit over 2 years old. And when we married, we had very different perspectives. I came from a fairly traditional religious family, and my wife grew up in a very progressive household. And so we debated about everything all the time. Our first date was a big debate, actually, and or it turned into a big debate. And so intellectual life is something that interests both of us. And we've been together now for 7 or 8 years, so we now share a lot of positions, but we had to argue our way to them. And in the course of getting in these big debates, I realized that I had never really studied anything about economics or politics. And so I had all these opinions about politics and all these opinions about economic policies. And I had never done any serious reading in those areas. And so that led us to do a lot of reading. And eventually we both together studied philosophy, politics, and economics in Prague. And so I'm interested in all the big ideas and the big questions that fall within those three areas, and others too, but those are the ones I'm really interested in personally. And in terms of my professional life, I work as a freelance writer and as a history teacher. And I kind of fell into writing by accident because I had to pay my way through college. And at the time, I was very interested in music. So I knew I needed a way to make money. And I also knew I needed to get to a lot of concerts. And so I found a music website where I could write and they would give me free tickets. And so I started writing about music. And eventually I found other jobs where instead of giving me tickets, they gave me money instead. And so I started writing as a profession. And I've been doing that since, I guess, my sophomore or even freshman year of college. So close to 10 years now. And then as you know, I'm a history and literature teacher as well. So a mix of work, all working from home. And so that's just a bit about me and my background. And I'd like to move on to talk about the classes. So the junior high level, the focus is really on imparting the historical method of research and argumentation. So everyone has probably heard of the scientific method. And in history, we also have a method. In fact, there are many methods of trying to arrive at the truth. And so to do good historical work, you have to do good research. You go to the original primary sources, you interpret them, you analyze them, and then you have to persuade everyone else that you have the best position, right? And so to do that, you have to organize your evidence in a compelling way and present it well, both in speaking and in writing. And that's a lot, right? That's a lot right there. So in the junior high level, what we're really focused on is getting students to the point where they can do that on their own. And of course, in debating and doing all this stuff on your own, I think it tends to be a bit of fun, right? Because at least from what I remember, middle schoolers like to win. We're all competitive, and it's also nice to be right, right, and to prove that you're right. And so the goal is to do this in a way that's engaging and interesting and competitive. Um, and then, of course, the actual knowledge that we cover is also important. I would say there's more of a focus on the method, but the knowledge is something that you're going to build on throughout your life. So when you learn about ancient or medieval or American history in junior high, it's really a first step that you're going to return to build on. So those are kind of the goals that I have as a teacher at the junior high level. For the high school courses, things get more advanced, right? So there's that same method, but there's a higher level of depth and sophistication that's expected of the students and that I walk them through. And in most of our courses, we are using textbooks that are suitable for a 1 semester or 1 quarter long undergraduate course. So we have twice as much time to get through the college level book as a college student would. So it is very high level, but it's not as high difficulty as you would get at a university because you have more time. But I definitely believe in challenging students, and I believe in the capacity of students to take on those big questions and the big controversies if they're given the right tools and the proper amount of time. And so my goal there is to be a bit more hands-off, right? The students are going to be debating more, and the debates have the potential to be much longer. And often I find myself cutting or cutting debates short because we run out of time at the high school level, and often, especially towards the end of the year, at the junior high level as well. And of course, the knowledge itself starts to matter quite a lot more at the high school level. You want to be going into depth into the material because, at least for some of the topics, the students might not cover them ever again. And so I will say that we really emphasize the importance of debate. We value debate. But if there's a topic that I think is very difficult and confusing, I might lecture for 10 or 15 minutes to explain a difficult topic and then have the students debate afterwards. Because over the years, when we've covered really complicated issues like the Great Depression or the business cycle, I've come to realize that I'm asking students to debate something that even after reading, they really don't understand. And I always want to make sure that the learning comes first, and then after that, we can talk about what style of teaching is best. And so at times there will be lectures to explain difficult things, and then the goal is to have productive debates as much as possible. But there is a mix of those two things in my courses. And then there's the literature courses, and this is actually the first year that we are offering literature courses, so it's something I'm very excited about. And the goals are similar to history. Of course, they're both part of the humanities. But in literature, there's kind of a different approach than in history. However, it's still systematic, right? So there's a way that you can analyze every book that will help you understand it at a deeper level, help you to recognize human universals in it, pick up on different symbols, on different references that the author's making, different imagery that they're using to get their message across. And so those are things that I'm hoping students will take from the courses. And wherever possible, of course, we're reading the best books that we can, whether it's at the junior high or high school level. We want the students to be engaging with the best possible literature. And the plan is to use different books every year. So if you're in the junior high course this year, it's going to be a completely different set of books than the junior high class will read next year. And then in the writing component, which for both the history and literature courses runs kind of parallel, but separate from the discussion component. In the literature course, I'm going to be focusing both on teaching students to write persuasively, present persuasive arguments, but also to write beautifully, to write with style. And so those are kind of the dual goals for literature. And with that, I think I've said everything that I want to say, and I appreciate your attention. And I'd like to open it up for questions. So please ask away, and I'll be happy to answer as best I can. All right, one of the Jeffreys, you have a question?
Hi, yes, I'm on two different things because I may have to step away for a little bit. But my question is for the literature, because we signed up for the literature course. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you loud and clear.
And so we are not doing the writing portion. So I wanted to know about the structure on how the flow of the class may go. So if they're reading a book, should they have come, let's say they start September, are they expected to have read the first book first, and then it's going to be a class discussion? So I guess more or less how was the structure of the class going to go?
All right, that's a very good question. So for the first class, we're kind of going to focus on teaching the method of analysis, how to organize the development of a book into, there's the conflicts, how to understand the different phases of the development of the conflict, how to assess the different characters and themes. And so I don't want the students to start reading before we do that, so that I want them to read looking for those elements as they read. And so they don't need to read before the first class. The way that every class is going to be structured is it's going to be split into two parts. And we meet for about 2 hours at a time. So it's quite a long time to sit on the screen. So we do have two distinct parts. The first part is going to be led by me, because doing this kind of systematic analysis of literature can be difficult. So I'm going to prepare a lecture, and I'm going to walk students through an analysis of the book. And there will be question and answer in that. I'm not going to be speaking the whole time, but I will be guiding the students. So I'm going to have an active role. Then we'll break for about 10 minutes. Everyone can shake out their legs and get a drink of water. And then the second half is going to be entirely discussion based. So instead of like leading that, I'm going to be more facilitating, asking questions to open up new ideas, but not, uh, taking things where I want them to go, as I will be in the first half. And so for that, I'll be giving students questions to prepare for ahead of time. So as they read, they'll have those in mind. And then the students will just discuss these questions about different themes in the book or different characters. Why was this character doing that, and why do you think the author had this event, just was describing it in this way, things like that. And then the students can kind of take that where they want to. And so the first half will be more structured, the second more free, and that's the way each class will be. All right, thank you. That's a very
Thank
good
you.
question. Sure thing. Okay, any other questions about literature or any other courses, or about myself? Yes, Rasha.
Hi. So we were thinking about trying to like American history in your high course, and she was just wondering how many students are usually in there and how the like structure of that flows.
That's a good question. So the maximum participants for any of our courses is 20, and usually we have the most signups in the last 2 weeks of August. So it's a little hard to predict exactly how many there'll be, but I believe that right now it was junior high American history, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think it's about 15 right now. It could be 12 to
Okay.
15 at this moment. Um, and with that book, so the student book that the students have comes with three different types of questions. Some of some of the questions are simpler. They're more about reading comprehension. What happened on this date? What happened at Valley Forge? Um, where was the Declaration of Independence signed? Things like that. And then a lot of the questions are more complex. So, um, in the wars between the American colonists and the American Indians, was one side more justified than the other? Something like that, right? It's more open-ended. And so usually in each class, we'll go over some of the questions of both kinds. So there'll be a chance to review the answers from the simpler questions and then to discuss and debate the more complicated questions.
Okay.
And that happens every week. So there's always a chance to discuss every week. But then I want to say 2 to 3 weeks, there'll be a big debate, a bigger debate question where more of the class will be spent debating some of the big issues of maybe that 50-year chunk of American history. Um,
Okay.
yeah. Does that answer the question, or are there any other questions about how that's laid out?
I think so. Do you have any other questions? Oh, how long are the classes?
Yeah, so for the history classes, both junior and high school, they meet for 50 minutes at a time.
Okay.
Yeah, once a week, 50 minutes at a time.
All right. I think that's it. Thank you.
Sure thing. Thanks for asking. All right. Anna Black asks in the chat, thank you for all the helpful information. Just wondering, from what worldview do you teach? A Christian worldview. That's a great question. So I myself am a practicing Catholic, and that definitely informs my worldview. I'm very much a Christian believer. That being said, the books that we use and the debates that we have are open to anyone who is honest and searching for the truth. So um, I feel like for example, when we cover history in our world history class for high schoolers, sorry, when we cover Christianity in our world history class for high schoolers, we cover it from a historical perspective. What that means is we look at historical evidence about the life of Jesus and the context that he lived in the Roman Empire, what the Romans believed at that time. So, you know, they were pagans. Some of them had a natural law philosophy. Many of them did not. You know, they had gladiatorial games and they were crucifying people, right? And then what did the Christians teach? What were their values? And the debate question that we have when we cover Christianity is what transformed Christianity from a persecuted religion that was really small into the official religion of the Roman Empire in 350 years or so, or yeah, that's about how long it took. So that's the question that we debate. And it is a big, you know, big question for us to understand. Why did the Romans go from killing the Christians to saying Christianity is the official religion of our state? So I hope that answers your question. But I would say that's our approach. All right, Christina Roberts asks, can you please explain how the writing class works with the government and economics class? Thank you. Okay, so with the history and the government and economics class, the writing class kind of works in parallel to the course. So we have debates in class, and once a month, at the beginning of every month, I send out writing prompts to the students. They can choose out of usually 3 or 4 prompts to write essays in response to. And usually 2 to 3 of those options will come from the debate questions that we cover in class. So the students can debate a question with their classmates, you know, discover a lot of other evidence in the course of debating, and then write an essay. And my goal as a teacher for the history and government and economics course is really to focus on the evidence that's being used and the quality of the argumentation. You know, in history or in economics, it's not so much about the beauty of the writing as the strength of the argument, the strength of the message. So I'm going to be helping students both organize their essays, but also challenging them to find the best quality evidence and make the strongest arguments that they can. And they have to write a minimum of 1 essay a month, and then it's up to you, parents, if you want to assign more than that to your students. And I'll grade an unlimited amount of essays. So, you know, if I grade an essay a B and the student wants an A, they can always rewrite it, and I'll keep giving feedback. So that really leaves an open door to, I think, the parents and the students to, you know, work as hard as they want to, but the minimum is 1 essay a month. So I hope that covered that question fully. And are there any other questions? Yes, Kristen C.
Hi there. Can you hear me or see me? I can't see you.
Oh, I'm sorry. I can both hear and see you.
I'm not sure what happened, but anyway, my question is about the American government and economics class. The typical curriculum provider that I use has a back order on the government textbook till I think it's later August. And so I'm just wondering, do students need that book for the first day of class? Forgive me if something like that's been asked already.
Oh, no worries. It hasn't been asked. It's a good question. And with that particular course, you're in luck because I actually flip it around, and we start with economics
Oh, great.
the first semester, and
Okay.
then we go to government. Yeah,
Excellent.
so that's totally fine.
Perfect. Thank you.
Sure thing. All right, any other questions? Okay, well, I guess I'm very appreciative that you've taken the time to come today. And if you have a question come up right after the Zoom call ends, which is probably more than likely, you can always reach me by email. It's adam@classicalhistorian.com, and I'll type that out. And so you can send questions away there, and I'll be happy to get back to you. I guess one other thing I can say about the course, I used to not give out grades, letter grades at least, but many parents have requested them over the years. And so I do issue grades now. I've been doing that for a few years, and will provide grades at the first quarter, at the end of the first semester, and then at the end of the school year. And generally, in terms of the discussion courses, if the students do the homework and they've clearly thought seriously about the debate question and provided evidence, and they're listening to their classmates, responding respectfully, they're going to have an A, because it's actually very difficult to do all of those things. It's very difficult to express yourself in debate and to provide evidence for a position. It's kind of like the highest complexity task that a history student will be asked to do. It's much harder than just answering questions about what happened at Valley Forge, or who invented writing, right? Because that's all just reading comprehension. So if students are doing all of that and they're making an effort and participating, then they will pass. But if the students aren't holding up their side of the bargain, and I can tell they haven't been doing the reading and they're not participating, then I will issue lower grades. And homeschoolers tend to be incredibly motivated and respectful and diligent students. So that's not necessary most of the time. But it is something that we offer, and so that's something you can expect, is to get an update at the end of the first quarter, so about 2 months into the school year, just with a first little progress report on how the students are doing. All right. Okay, so thank you again, everyone, and please don't hesitate to reach out to me in my email if you have any other questions. And have a great day and a great week. I'm looking forward to the first day of class. Bye, everyone.
Bye. That worked.